Some of you might recognize this thing. I showed them off a few years ago when I was building the SRS99-A 5AM, the Halo 5 version of the sniper rifle. And I have also put pictures of this guy on Facebook, on Instagram, and a couple other places too. But recently, Spartan Jess has asked me to do a breakdown of how I created this thing. And since I'm not currently available to rebuild a new one, I'm just going to take this thing apart so I can show you how it was constructed. Most of the time right now I've been a little bit busy with building houses. So yeah, unfortunately that's why I haven't been able to make any new videos lately. But a little bit of an update about this guy and a little bit of a walkthrough about how this guy's put together. Yeah. Let's take this guy apart and see how it's put together. As I would usually do, I would get myself a nice little side profile reference material so that I know exactly what I want to do. And what I typically use is a program called Paint.net. This program is essentially freeware, so I don't have to worry about buying a license for it. Plus, what I can do with it is that I can actually use it just like Photoshop with a bunch of different layers in it. So what I have here is someone's drawing of the Halo sniper rifle, and they've got two very nice detail size. Usually I would go with whatever one that gives me the most detail, such as this ejection part section right here. That's the one I would mostly double check to make sure I have for sure. But once I have it on here, what I'd like to do is I like to scale the whole picture itself to the size of the prop that I'm going to build. And after I'm done that, as you can clearly see across the whole screen, is what I call the inch grid. So each individual green square is 1 inch. Every red and purple square is 6 inches. Makes it easy to see. So what I can tell you, for example, right now, is that from there all the way back to the base there, well, 6, 12, 8, 42, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 47 inches from the tip of the barrel all the way to the base. So that's the nice thing about this inch grid, is that you can actually use this to transcribe any of your large pictures onto any large items, or smaller pictures, since, you know, saving space on paper. But anyway, so we go from here and we now go into building it on the actual item. So why don't we start from the very simple pieces? This part right here is essentially all just floorboard, and it's literally held in with a screw, and it's literally all held together with superglue. Quite basically, this is going to be one of the parts that I've had to kind of freely sculpt. I had the measurements for that, and I had a bit of measurements for that, but I haven't had much measurements for anything else. So I kind of had to go with my imagination on how a muzzle brake looks. And I quite like this. The handguard, carrying handle, is just a piece of steel that I bent. Legs, piece of steel that I cut off. The feet are this rubber feet for like tables, I think. I got them at the surplus store that's now been closed, unfortunately, so I have no idea where to get any more of those. The barrel is made out of just a bunch of plumbing parts. You've got a 1-inch PVC pipe here. I've got this is actually being ground down to that profile, but this is also just a bunch more plumbing parts put together. A piece of 2-inch, a 2-inch coupler, 2-inch coupler, 2-inch coupler, 2-inch reducer to the 1.5 inch, and then the 1 inch just fits inside the 1.5 inch. So the way this thing was all designed was that I can very easily just take this, give it a little twist, and the whole barrel comes right off. Now, the most astute of you will notice that that's not an airsoft gun. In fact, I took the airsoft gun out of this because I wanted to put the gun back together. So, where that is right now? Well, close enough. So this is the rifle that I was using inside the sniper rifle. It is a Javelin M24, and as you can clearly see, it's not inside of the sniper rifle. Mostly because I assembled this back together just because I wanted to have this working sniper rifle as I was going out for my regular games, as the Halo 3 sniper rifle was rather difficult to try to carry into the field on a regular basis. However, so in order to get this guy into the big sniper rifle, what I've discovered was I can actually remove just the barrel and actually put that into the sniper rifle. But in order to do that, I have to pull out a bunch of tools. Of course, this may not be the rifle that you choose to put into your sniper rifle. That's going to be up to you. Unfortunately, this is the one I had because I bought this on sale for only $100, and we got two of them because my airsofting buddy also wanted a sniper rifle at the same time too, so we bought two of these guys. So this next part might be a little different for each one of you trying to figure out how you want to build your sniper rifle, and you're going to have to figure that out on your own. But there is one other thing that I have to point out, is the fact that this sniper rifle, when you pull a bolt up, it locks the trigger. This is also the reason why I don't use the sniper rifle anymore. So, I need to be able to disable the fact that you need to have the bolt locked down in order to fire the trigger, which I'm going to have to do when I open up the thing. Okay, so which one of these is it? Is it? Here, yeah, thanks. Also, one other thing I have to do is I have to remove the bolt because I won't actually be using the bolt when it's inside the sniper rifle. I will, however, be reusing this screw that was holding the back end onto it, because this will actually hold the charging rod in place. So I'm just going to lightly put that back in there like that for now. Oh, and don't forget to keep all these loose parts somewhere safe. You don't want to lose them and then accidentally have to replace the entire sniper rifle because you're missing the bolt handle itself. As you can clearly see, the trigger works fine, but when I hold that down, the trigger does not. So I have to remove this function right here in order for the trigger system to work properly. Otherwise, I'm going to have an issue about the sniper rifle not working because I can't pull the trigger. However, in this whole conversion, this safety catch for the trigger won't be in much use. Trying not to lose parts here. Springs are important. Is that the trigger rod? As I should point out before I continue on with this, how your internals of your trigger block are going to look are going to be vastly different, especially if you're not going to be using a Javelin M24. If you're using a VSR10, I don't know how the internals of those quite look like yet, so I do not know if they will be very reminiscent of this model or not, because I have not opened up one of those yet, so I do not know how similar they look. So keep in mind, I'm not going over much great detail on this section here because, well, evidently it might not apply to you. But this is what I had to do in order to get this system to work for me. As you can see, what I currently have is a very, very simple system where you have the trigger spring holding the trigger down, which when pressed pivots on that point up there so that this point up here slides up, bringing that ratchet down, allowing this, which is the piston sear, to release. So with that in place, I'm just going to simply put everything back together and then put the rest of the parts that I do not need for this modification to go right back into the plastic bag so I don't lose everything as soon as I get everything back into position. And there you have it. It's all put back together. Very nice. Now, I could remove the safety. It wouldn't be difficult, but that would just mean more parts that I have to figure out how to put back on later on. So I'm just going to leave that there. It's not going to interfere with anything. So I'm just going to leave this on, and I'm going to just put it right back on top the sniper rifle barrel. And there we go. She looks like she's ready to roll. So, onto the sniper rifle. Now, I can't exactly remember if I need these or not. I actually filmed this out of order. So I'm going to leave those out of the bag for now, and I will come back whenever I need those. Taking a look at the scope before I take all of it off, I'm going to. This is just 2-inch coupler to another piece of 2-inch, super glued to a box that's been super glued together, made out of laminated wood board, and then that is screwed onto a 2-inch vacuum tube that I cut that I've cut open, and then I used a heat gun to straighten out the edges. And this entire top section here is exactly that. It's just heat formed vacuum tube, 2-inch. I think it's PVC, or it could be ABS. I think it might be ABS to be honest. So that's that piece. I kind of just custom shaped it. There's a piece of 1.5-inch PVC pipe in here, specifically to couple around the gun barrel. So 2 screws to hold that in place. The rest of that's just super glued all together. There's no actual scope in here, unfortunately. Mostly because, well, this was most of her costume, and at the time, I was just starting to get some work done. So I'm going to set this aside. Now, this little bit here for the charging handle and the recoil spring for that, that's mostly for filling in for the fact that I don't actually have a proper gun in here right now, so that I can actually still rack that back, have that slide forward. But for now, I've got 2 screws here that need to come out, and then I need to take this piece of pipe out to release the spring and to get the charging rod out. I also have the 1.5 inch PVC pipe on the back here, specifically for putting that back on like that. Oh yeah, that tends to happen. The gun barrel actually sits inside here. This hole right here is for the mag well, and you've got a little hole over here for the trigger box. Just sat inside there with the charging handle screwed to the back, so you can actually see that the charging handle is directly connected to the piston. And this is just a piece of aluminum with a piece of PVC pipe as a guide, so it doesn't accidentally pull away. It's got a screw coming out from the inside to hold that bolt properly. So the idea would have been there. And this is why I can't really use this gun anymore, because that becomes a problem, trying to see if I can get that to fit. But that's how the system fires. So the rest of the construction, I will just simply take off the barrel, because you saw how that went. I had a bolt go in from underneath and one bolt from up here to go to connect to the gun. I will show you how I access that very shortly. But before I take apart the gun anymore, I have this little paddle inside here to take the magazine out. Very simple box magazine, just acrylic plastic. Put some wood in there just to give it a space. Nice solid base. I was initially designing this to have this replace the actual magazine. However, because of my inexperience, I didn't actually get it to work properly, so I just stuck the regular magazine inside the gun. Hydraulic piston. Just a very simple piece. Just a dowel that I cut out and ground the tip into the size, the shape that I wanted. And then I just simply epoxy glued a piece of PVC pipe over it to give it exactly what I wanted. PVC pipe, screw, piece of wood, probably some epoxy, steel rod, and the foot. All held together with just the one screw. This might take some time. That's the screw. I honestly don't know where I got this screw from. I found it in a pile of screws in my garage. I think my dad had them. This piece right here, it's just very simply a sheet of steel. Can't remember how I got that. I think I went over to my local hardware store and I picked it up, and then I just bent it into place. Evidently, there's a rivet that popped out at some point in time. I think I'll replace that rivet once again once I have the time to fix all my props and everything else. But with the legs out of the way, I can actually just... I'm going to actually see if I can get this off now. Typically, she would be like that, and then I just go up all the way off, like so. Now, the one nice thing I kind of did with the design here is that on the original design, there's a bunch of screws everywhere. And I actually used those screws for properly mounting this thing all together. So if you take a quick look on this side, you'll actually notice that this giant gap here for the magazine, as well as the gap right in front of the trigger grip, and everything else is essentially just blocked together. Now, to keep everything in perspective, I'm just going to take off one side, because the screws are actually on both sides. I've got 3 screws on the other side there, that 1 screw on the other side, those 3 screws there. I got another 2 screws up the front there that was held together with a 3rd screw for the feet. So I'm just going to take all the screws off and show you how, and I think that is actually probably just glued together. This part right here. Yeah, I think that's just good. Oh yeah, that's all glued together. So I guess I'll just show you that part separate, and I'm gonna have to take the whole thing apart now. That is literally it. That's the entire main front body. Piece of 2x3. I did have to cut this off in order to get that right shape, though. Fortunately, I didn't have anywhere to really put screws in this section here, so that's why this is all glued together. But you can see where the magazine ejection is. Front mount. This is where I would put the trigger. And for being this old, it's actually holding together very well. Now, if I was in the right mind, this actually starts to look like, put another hole right here, and this looks like an SMG. This is actually the buttstock, and how it was constructed was a piece of 2x4, piece of 2x2, and a 2x8, or 2x10, I think. Either way, I basically screwed it all together. You can see the screw holes for putting this block together, doubles to hold these 2 parts together. These 2 screws up here, one are shorter so that it doesn't go all the way through, but I've got 1 main body screw to hold the stock onto the frame, and I've got these 2 bolts that hold the grip in place nice and solid. One of the key things I wanted to make sure that happened was that this guy was able to take as much pressure I can. So I actually have bolts that go out that long into here. I could break this, and this is just a sheet of acrylic plastic here that I just cut into the shape. I put 4 screws on to hold it in place. Literally, there's nothing else you can see. So as you can see, it's like literally it's painted. It's not even sealed. You can see all the wood grain through the silver paint and the black. And basically, that's how I put this whole thing together. Now, you may have noticed how I've got all these red tape on the barrel. Well, that's specifically for shimming it. So that when I put on the external barrel, slides on quite nice and easy. Quite snug too. No rattle, very little rattle. Maybe a little bit of rattle. But overall, that's plenty of space in order for airsoft BB to go through, especially with the 1-inch tube. It'll go through. Certainly it'll find its way through. It's not that difficult. And there you have it. A prop built in, I think it was 2012. Yeah, I'm still very happy about how this guy came together, and the fact that it's still in such good condition too. I'm very happy about that. The fact that this airsoft gun still works, kinda. That airsoft gun has given me a lot of problems as well as actually put together properly because it wasn't properly putting the nozzle back into the hop-up unit. So if you're going to try to recreate something like this, there's going to be a few things you're going to have to adjust for your own model. If you're going to use a VSR10 instead of an M24, that's up to you. But if you just want to copy this, then that's what I use, the M24. If you're going to create this into an electric version, what you're going to have to probably do is figure out how you're going to be doing this whole section right here, because without me having my hands on it, I have no idea what you are going to be doing. So, unfortunately, that's going to be something that's going to be discussed about on a later time. And right now, I need to finish putting all this together before D&D happening in half an hour. So, yeah, I hope this gives you an insight about how this thing was created and how it functions, and also just, yeah, be able to inspire you on how you can build stuff at home too with what was essentially like scrapped from renovation. I hope you enjoyed the video.